Good evening, and welcome to the Thursday evening show for Accountable Leadership for Affordable Government. My name is Ken Fracasso, a sitting selectman for the town of Winchester. I'm joined again tonight by Selectman Karen Beadle, Selectman Glenn Albanesius, and a new face on the crowd, Marcia Sterling, who's running for selectman for the town of Winchester this November. We've had an opportunity to go out and speak to some of the business owners in town over the last week, and our show tonight is going to be based on economic development for the town of Winchester, and we'd like to go over some bullet points. And I think Marcia would like to.
Sure. I think it's important first to frame the issue and understand what do we mean when we talk about economic development. Now, we mean renewing Main Street, establishing more retail, more focus on that area. We mean we want to find more uses and new uses for the empty mill buildings that exist on Main Street. We want to grow and upgrade the housing stock in town. We want to attract new businesses and commercial partners, as well as continue to support our existing ones. We acknowledge that green space is a huge economic value. We have a very attractive footprint. We have a nice concentrated downtown and light industrial area and beautiful green space around it, and we have to make the most of that. Now, how do we make that happen? Well, the first is leadership. We need real leadership, which has been lacking for the last 2 years, and we need that leadership to rally the community. We must provide better support to the existing businesses. We must attract new people and businesses, and it's important as we look through this to think about the balance of growth and what we're looking for. These are the highlights in terms of what we heard as we started to talk to businesses and individuals in town, and we look forward to talking to more of you over the next month and a bit, and continuing that conversation even after the election. Correct. Right. Because I think it's really important to first understand what are the goals that you want us to achieve. What do we mean when we say economic development? But really, what do we all mean when we say economic development? I think we have a Main Street area that we all drive through on a regular basis. We stop frequently. I mean, I'm a big user of the Y and the Gilson and shop at the downtown businesses. And I think we need to have more people acknowledge that that's our Main Street and that's the place that they want to go. I mean, Ken, I know that you frequent the downtown businesses.
Yes, I do. And just the little bit of feedback that we've gotten in the past few days is, they want the downtown area to look cleaner. I mean, litter's a big problem. The overgrowth on the riverbanks, it hasn't been maintained. It's not inviting. It's not appealing. It doesn't look good. I mean, we did have a lot of work on the median. That's only phase 1 has been completed. I think there was mostly good feedback. There was some feedback as to they didn't have a lot of input themselves, some of the businesses, but I think it's the small things that we need to focus on in the beginning, like cleaning up the area and listening to the people that are there right now. We need to attract more business, but we need to take care of the ones and acknowledge the people that are there right at this present time.
Right. Especially in these economic times, trying to keep businesses in town is almost as important as trying to grow it.
Right.
I know that around political season, it's kind of a focus for the campaigners, but I think what we've really come to terms with it needs to be an ongoing priority, and I think that that's what we want to bring to the table tonight, is that identify some of the issues, some of the solutions, and stay focused on that through the next 2 years. I think that's critical.
Yeah. And so after we've framed the issue of, what do we mean by economic development, I think the next question is, what do you need to make it happen? What is required to have economic growth occur and have it be successful? Well, the first thing that I clearly hear from everybody that we've spoken to, and I think we've all heard this, is you've got to have a government that works and gets stuff done. We haven't accomplished anything in the last 2 years. There really hasn't been any progress, and that people, I think, Karen, in our first program, you were the one who said, what I enjoy about government is having us actually get stuff done, and we need to have that happen.
Yes.
It's listed second on the page, but it came out of every single person I've spoken to, whether they're a business owner or an individual, or a homeowner, or a resident. You got to have a school system that works, and everyone acknowledges that our school system doesn't. They acknowledge that there's an awful lot of money spent. I think it's important to note that just in the last week, the school district has acknowledged that in 2009-10 they spent $21.1 million, and that when you look at that, along with the number of students attending school in Winchester, we're in the top 25% of funders in the state of Connecticut. So one of the concerns and complaints, I think, has been there isn't enough money. Well, we're in the top 25%. In fact, most of the other people in the 25% or the other school districts are the wealthier districts in Connecticut. So it's really a question of then now what are we doing with the money? And you three have led the charge in terms of trying to get to the bottom of that. The next was you got to have a government that sets clear goals and priorities. You all started a strategic review plan, and I'm going to let you talk about that, but a number of people noted that we started down a road about a year ago, and now they've heard nothing about it, and that leads into the next point of good communication and transparency. You got to go talk to people. They have to hear what's going on. We're lucky to have this public access cable TV station that we can broadcast from and that can broadcast our meetings, but there's a lot of other ways that people get information, and really the face-to-face dialogue is the most important one. And so I think it's incumbent upon us, you know, if we're fortunate enough to win in November, to make sure that we continue to have good communication in all avenues to try to get to people. A real commitment to local businesses and people is also key. I was surprised as a new person running for office to hear from more than one Main Street business owner that they had been tagged with being a Republican business, and as a result, people that didn't agree with primarily what you three and Lisa have been doing for the last year had stopped coming into their place of business, and that's just wrong. That's just wrong. Wow. There should be no D's, R's, and U's, for stuff like that. And then the last point, which is really, sort of re-emphasizing the first, which is implementation is as important as planning. I mean, we keep hearing out of the deputy mayor, we need a planner, we need more plans, we need, more thought, more outlines, more ideas, more people at Yale telling us what to do. But we've got books and shelves of plans, and we've got a lot of stuff that never got put in place. And I think they want to see things get put in place, and they want to have the town be a place where you send the message out: come here, do business here, build business here, live here. We don't currently have an environment for success. We don't really send the message that people should come here. And the latest developments at planning and zoning are case in point. The fact that we've had a steep grant for 4 years. We've all known, it was one of the first things you talked about in November 2009, that the parking over on Prospect Street was a problem.
Yep.
And that's one of the #1 ways that people actually see Winsted, because they come for games at that field. And if they have nowhere to park, and the parking lot there could be significantly better, better access, better maintained, and it just isn't, because we've decided to take rules that we put in place fairly recently, and I'm a fan of low impact development rules. And just to be clear, the town has a grant for like $300,000 or $400,000.
I don't know if it's that high, but
there's two of them combined are a little over $300,000.
Right.
But one of them is to pave the park that's across from the playing fields.
Correct.
Right.
That
On
it's
Willow Street. Yeah.
on Willow Street,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been in place for a number of years. You all have been trying to get this done since you came into office.
Mm-hmm.
The current Planning and Zoning Commission, again, well-intentioned, but perhaps not thinking things through, has now thrown up a red flag and said, not low-impact development, not enough shrubbery, not enough green space for a parking lot. Well, it's a pretty small parking lot, and there's a giant playing field across the street that absorbs most of the water in the area anyway. And it just seems to be another way to block something. And to your point originally, Karen, going back to a couple weeks ago, people want to see stuff get done.
Not only that, that parking lot, I mean, you're right. I mean, how much green do you need? It's dirt right now.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there's a bunch of kids that hang around there, and that's great because, you know, we can get into that where the, you know, you see kids walking, they're looking for places to hang out. In fact, driving here, there were kids hanging out, and I can just imagine how the shrubbery will help that.
But if we had
You know, I mean, you have enough green, you have greens, you know, and fields across the street.
Right, as Marcia
You know,
said,
the whole idea was to maximize on parking and making it a little less chaotic over there.
And the safety issue too. I mean, you know, I know there have been instances, and unfortunately it's been either like on a soccer kickoff night or the first night of baseball where the parents come down and, you know, the grandparents and whatever, relatives, the streets lined with cars, and the police come out and ticketed a bunch of vehicles, and it didn't make for a nice evening.
No.
So, I mean, from a safety standpoint of getting the cars off the road, as Marcia stated, and you know, you've got all the green across the street, and they just passed this low impact, and I'm in favor of it too. But I mean, this is just another case in point where common sense needs to come into play. You know, this isn't like it's a huge development, you know, where there's, you know, a housing or, you know, a huge parking area for, you know, 1,000 cars. I think we're talking 60 spaces between the two areas, and it's just.
Well,
The thing that bothers me the most is the timing. I mean, they've known this has been on the table, and they knew that they wanted, just 2 weeks ago, the town manager's report said that this was moving forward. They had plans drawn up. They were hoping to get out to bid and do everything except the paving. They were going to let it settle over the wintertime, pave it in the spring, so it'll be ready for the spring. Now, it appears that that's not going to happen, and it is. It's just another black eye in the community that we can't work together and get anything accomplished.
Right.
And that's bad for the whole town. Whether it's a parking area for the ball field or someone wanting to come in and, you know, develop one of these buildings, it's just, it's not good.
And it does speak to the importance of leadership. I think if the issue had been, you know, identified earlier, and if there were issues, you know, try to work it out amongst the people who are going to be involved in the decision, and come to some compromise, and hopefully that's the way it'll end out. But that needed to happen a while ago.
Well, and it's incomprehensible to have your public works director present a plan that that people have seen for months and years, and then have the planning and zoning and one of your sitting selectmen, the deputy mayor, stand up and all of a sudden say, "Whoops, stop! We have to rethink this. We have to reevaluate this." You can't do that you send a signal. The article in the newspaper today sends a signal to anybody thinking about coming to Winsted. You could get this close to being ready to go. You're right at the edge, and you'll get pulled back.
Yeah, and that's been the rap on Winsted for a long time, that we're not business friendly.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute, because I'm very distressed at the idea that you would see businesses today and they're dubbed as Democrat or Republican. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for a long time here in this town, and was a partner in a business here, and never seemed to have that problem. And the fact that all of a sudden this is becoming an issue. I mean, we've talked about this before. When you are elected, you are not a Democrat, you are not a Republican, you are representing a community. And, you know, we wonder why the federal government can't work together. Well, look what the heck we're doing at a local level. I mean, my biggest thing forever doing this was that after this is all said and done, we're all neighbors. You know, we all live in the same, we may disagree, you know, that there should be shrubs down at that parking lot, or whatever the case may be. But you have to be able to be, I don't know, mature enough, professional enough, neighborly enough to agree to disagree and call it at the end of the day, and not have this, I don't know, this
Animosity.
Well, it's a partisanship that prevents.
It's terrible.
Well, it's a partisanship that is corrosive.
But it's preventing us from moving forward.
Exactly, and then it prevents you from getting stuff done.
Right.
And the number one thing from businesses that I've spoken to is they just don't have the sense that the current administration wants to accomplish anything that is business friendly. And that's in the economic interest of the town.
And that's the farthest thing from the truth. I mean, you know, I always felt that these 2 years, you know, with some of the big issues that we had to deal with that we kind of inherited, you know, that a lot of it was, we were stagnated, you know, or if we had a disagreement, we could never move forward, you know, kind of like just evaporated. And we've had our share of frustrations with that, you know, and this tit for tat philosophy is not the way any of us operate. You know, I think we all want to go forward, you know, and get things done. So I sincerely hope that this parking lot thing, can this be brought back up? I mean, is it DOA?
I hope not. I mean, I don't know what the timetable is on it, though. I did not attend last night's meeting. I only know what I read in the paper, so. And I did speak to the town manager briefly this afternoon about it. So I'll give Jim Rotundo a call and see what his next move is.
And I was going to say, this leads to the, you know, sort of the next, you know, framing the issue. The other comment from everybody is stop talking and start getting some of this stuff fixed. You know, because they're tired of hearing there are specific issues. Parking's an issue.
Yes.
Whether it's parking because you're parking on the riverside of Main Street and you take your life in your hands trying to cross the street, or because you know, there's got to be a way to create more parking and sign it better and make it more you know, available. And quite frankly, that's an issue holding back the community college. Yes. It's an issue for the community college, quite frankly, and the merchants at that end of the street. Because I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. The students frequently park in some of the businesses up there. CVS, McDonald's, and Dunkin' Donuts come to mind. And they're not necessarily in those businesses for very long. They might nip in and get a cup of coffee or a hamburger or a donut, but then they go to class, but they leave their car there. And because there isn't enough parking for them. And this college, you know, desperately wants to address the issue, desperately wants to embrace the town, desperately wants to grow. I mean, they have this new nursing program, and they really want to grow. And while they're excited about the American Mural Project, that frightens them in terms of parking, and I think they're right to be concerned. So we need to be talking about this, come up with a plan, and address it. We're not going to solve it here tonight, but we need to solve it. We need to have a plan. Parking's an issue. We need to stop talking about it. We need to come up with a plan, and we need to address it. Keep Main Street clean. This is an easy one. The Route 44 corridor, and I know this because I walked both sides of it in the last couple of days, and there's somebody going to clean it. There's trash on both sides, and the riverside is just, you know, a tangled mess of greenery and overgrowth, and it could be beautiful. And the reality is that we do have employees in Public Works. We do have, you know, people in town that can do this. Leaving it to volunteers is great and well-intentioned, except it just doesn't get done. It's a nice thought, but it doesn't get done. And again, overwhelming comment I hear is when you pull over to park, particularly on the riverside, and you get out and see 5 or 6, you know, empty McDonald's bags, a couple of beer, you know, a couple of cans, a couple of this. You want to get right back in your car and leave unless you actually live here and think, well, okay, I still want to walk across the street and go to the True Value. So we need to figure out how to get that clean and keep it clean. And we need to showcase the river. I mean, most towns would kill to have the view that we have, and we need to make the most of that. Back to the point on the parking lot, if we need to obtain more grants, and then we actually need to use them. I think there's another part of the STEEP grant that was to rehabilitate the rest of East End Park. The first phase, the bollards and the fencing, looks fantastic. But I think we're still hung up on the last part in terms of fixing the fountain, and that just needs to get done.
Yeah, it's taking a little longer than anticipated, I think.
And then we have to ensure that the regulations we put in place actually encourage people to come here and facilitate development. I mean, this LID thing with the parking lot is case in point. There are rules.
Yeah.
If we need to modify them in a thoughtful way to make something work for the town, then we need to do that. We need to identify outside partners and get them involved. I mean, you guys, I think, did a great job of giving Mike as much opportunity as possible, but the thing that really concerned me about that whole process was really twofold. One was the idea of a sitting selectman saying, you know, the taxes on the building I now own are imaginary, forgive them, and I'm your only hope. And you know, there is no wall around Winstead, and we need to bring more people in, new people in, people that have better thoughts and more money, and we certainly need to do that. And we need to tirelessly promote the town, the existing businesses as well. And so I I actually had somebody say this to me, you need to focus, focus, focus. These are important issues, and you need to focus, focus, focus.
Well, it is true. I mean, let's start with the parking. I mean, it's been a problem, a long-standing problem. And on the last show, I know we didn't spend much time at all, except mentioning it briefly towards the end. And, you know, we made the statement that we would like to do whatever we could to help the American Mural Project get off the ground and actually, you know, get in the construction phase and get it opened up. But, you know, I think we seriously need to look at putting in 1 or 2 parking garages in town. I mean, and they do them nowadays. I mean, they're very aesthetically pleasing. It's not just, you know, concrete and steel anymore.
Right.
You know, they have brick facades, and I mean, they really do look nice.
Right.
They put plantings on them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, then we can plant some shrubs and have some, maybe we can have a green roof on that. But in keeping Main Street clean, I mean, that's something that we can do, we could implement immediately and showcase the river once that, we cut the overbrush down. I've kicked around a few ideas with some local residents that they said that, you know, they would love to see a water wheel somewhere along it. I mean, there's something that's very attractive that would make the downtown look, you know, very appealing.
Right.
So I mean, there are ways and there are things to do. We just need to go out and actually do them.
Right. I'll just throw on the table. Last year, John Marisi and I took a drive over to NU. They own the property behind the bowling alley, and that is they're decommissioning it, I guess, is a word I might come up with, so that there is an opportunity there for parking, depending upon, you know, where the parking goes and how extensive we use the property. But definitely an opportunity that we kind of peeled back the cover on, and I think now that we've identified it as a goal, I think that's something we need to pursue. We have some contacts over there who said that they would be in the process of cleaning that up. That has to happen still, but you know, they had a target date that might start in the next couple of years. So we need to keep, like you said, focused on that, because I do think that's a good opportunity to find or put in parking that's, you know, accessible for not only places behind there, but Main Street and even down that corridor towards the college. So again, Ken, you mentioned parking garage. You know, that might be a perfect opportunity.
Well, and I think it is, and especially on some of these properties that are so heavily contaminated. I mean, in an instance such as that, I mean, you'd be able to encapsulate the property and build a garage on top of it.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't be disturbing it.
Right.
And I mean, that's something that we need to look into.
Right, and the nice thing, again, I keep coming back to is the fact that we do have opportunities. You know, we've heard time and time again that, you know, well, there aren't a lot of people knocking on our doors and we don't have much going for us, and, you know, I resist that. I do think that we have, you know, key places in town that we need to focus on and figure out ways to use it and you know, attract people and make it comfortable for people to come in and use the town. And parking, I think, is critical to whatever we do. So,
ironically, that was part of the redevelopment plan. I'm trying to remember how many years ago, but I can tell you Dave Cavabianca was involved with it, and it was looking, because, you know, as you look at your Main Street, when it fills up, there's always going to be limited parking. So you look behind.
You have to look away. Yeah.
You know, it's all that concentric circles of sociology and all that. So
Right.
you move out. And that was looked at that time, but as we know, with a lot of things, it's all about timing.
Right.
You know, so the timing wasn't right for the Northeast utilities at that time. Maybe the timing is better now.
Right.
But the idea is that no one gives up.
Right.
But you can always draw. I know that there are actual drawings and things that were done, you know, putting a park back there, near there would be parking.
Yep.
And it was to tie in where you can park and it would be visually pleasing. Your walk to Main Street or whatever parts
And
of
even
the
with
town you were going to.
Carriage Maker Place, which I understand is getting closer to, you know, happening. I mean, I think there's limited parking there for the people that live there. So obviously, if they have guests, they're going to need a place to safely park. And again, if we could start to put that in motion, I think that would be a key project. You know,
Well, the parking garage, I love the idea, and it's been brought up in past projects when we've had different people come here and look at whether it's 10 Bridge Street or whatever. Because, I mean, parking up instead of sprawl parking, you're definitely getting more bang for your buck.
Right.
And let's be clear, these are not inexpensive things to do.
They are not.
So we need to find partners, and we need to find, you know, if you combine the American Mural Project, with the college, with the town, with some of the other businesses, now you've got a group of people that can work together to get something done instead of being one entity saying, I'm trying to get this done on my own.
Right.
And that's, quite frankly, what government's supposed to do. It's supposed to plug all those people together
Right.
and solve that problem for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to one of the points you made about identifying outside partners. You know, we mentioned a little bit last week. I think you have to go out and seek those people. I don't think you sit back and say, you know, hey, we've got
Don't
a
sit
nice...
by waiting for a phone to ring.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think, again, that needs to be a focus of, you know, our team, you know, going forward, if we are fortunate enough to get elected, that we do build or put together a sales team of people that know how to go out and proactively seek out the people that do this for a living, you know how to come in and work within the, you know, the needs of the town, and start to make them happy. People that are, you know, funded and capitalized, and I think that's how we definitely move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you sell an awful lot of office products, and I sold an awful lot of securities, and I sold none of those by just sitting at my desk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
You have to sell them. Nobody shows up to buy them.
And it's a numbers game. I mean, in any business, it's rare that every dart you throw is going to hit the bullseye. It just doesn't happen. But you have to have the dart in your hand. And, you know, I think that's part of...
You have to have the target somewhere in your
Yeah, and I
sights.
think that's part of what we need to... I think our group has identified as an issue. And, you know, how do we get out there and start throwing some darts and you know, scoring some wins? And you do that by getting in front of the people that we identify as being players, and that's how you succeed and move forward.
Yeah, and we're gonna be, you know, we're not always gonna be successful, and there's gonna be meetings that you think, gee, if we just said this, maybe things would have been different. But you got to do 10 tries to get 2 wins.
Because you know what? You swerve into success sometimes where you least expect it.
Right.
But if you're talking to enough people, you'll generate interest, word will get around. And I'll just, again, bring this up, but I think Art Bogan with the Brownfields has been a terrific example of a professional that's come in, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's on top of his game. I mean, I think he, on all levels, wants to succeed, not only for himself, but for the town and preserving that fund. And I think there's a shining example of, you know, Winsted, you know, scoring a win. He really has brought in tremendous knowledge and an ability to work the system. And, you know, I think ultimately we'll preserve that fund. Some things will happen. I think that's a win. So there's more Art Bogans out there. I'm convinced of it. Martin Kenny sat right here, you know, a couple years ago, and we let it get away. But, you know, I think, again, that we proactively need to go out and find these people, get them in town, start that conversation, and I think things will happen.
Well, I think, you know, and I agree with you, and it's all laying those foundation blocks. And unfortunately, you know, we had to deal with this financial crisis.
Yeah, and that still has to be resolved.
And that, you know, and hopefully we're nearing the end. You know, we're getting closer to a resolution. But that was a tough nut.
It was.
And it took a lot of resolve to see that through.
Right.
And we will.
Right.
But I think that lays a groundwork foundation. Then we can start building and start focusing what we really, you know, our efforts, you know, we get that, you know, and we get that uprighted, and we start communicating a little more effectively, you know, with 2/3 of our budget. And then we can start moving toward the directions and looking at the things we need to look at.
It bears restating that we need to have our financial house in order for anything to happen in town. And we have
otherwise these are all dreams.
Exactly. And we really have fought that fight. And anybody that takes time to sit and analyze the decisions that we made and why we've made them, he has to walk away from the table saying that the town is financially in better shape because of what we've done. And not everybody's going to agree with that. I get that. But, you know, that's a foundation project. If you don't get that stuff in order, all this, you know, really all this stuff is a pipe dream.
Yeah.
So
I think there's two tongue-tied here. Two sub-stories here along this whole line. Now, one of them with the finances is transparency. You know, I honestly believe that, you know, if the taxpayers in this town see where the money's going and see that we're making some progress, that they will back us and they will be willing to invest some money in some future growth.
Yep.
And I think that's extremely important. And I think once that's accomplished, that'll be a good portion of the battle, and
Sure.
we will be able to move forward.
Well, I would say a big win, in addition to the foundation and trying to right the right size and right the ship in the school district, is the other thing I heard talking to parents and running into some of the students that are now at Gilbert, is how thrilled they are. That was a tremendous move, and the three of you really pushed for that. And I think it's it's a financial win for the town, because it's now $12,000 a student for the upper 6th grades. That's a huge savings. It now allows them to spend $16,000 a student for the lower 6th grades, so hopefully they can use that money to good effect. But the kids are happy. The teachers were saying, we have new books, we have computers, we have smart boards. The money that's spent in that school is spent on the students, and it's invested in them. And it's clear from the teachers are proud to now go to school, to go to work there every day, and the kids are proud to be there at school. And that was a huge win, both financially and also, again, going back to the point of we need a working school district.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you got a ways to go. You've got to have the academics catch up with the improvement in moving those students, but you got a much better foundation for making that happen now, I think.
Well, yeah, it was the long 2 years of disclosure in bits and pieces. But I think we're coming to the end, and there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
I really do believe that.
Well, I think you're coming to the end, but you got to keep the focus and keep the spotlight on it until it comes to the right conclusion. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I guess what do we have to offer? Why we've talked a little bit about this, but what does Winsted have to offer? If we go out and start looking for those partners and looking for people to work with us. Well, we sit at the crossroads of two major highways. I may have said this before, but most towns want that. We actually have it. We're actually very close to very important urban areas. We're less than an hour from Hartford, and we're less than 3 hours, more like 2.5, 2 if Ken's driving, to New York or Boston. We have a walkable Main Street. I mean, we actually have a Main Street that's what everybody else looks for in their community. We have post office and banks and a grocery store and other shops. We have a good footprint. We have sort of the centralized community that people look for. And surrounding that are the best recreation opportunities that the Northeast has to offer. We've got great recreational lakes. We've got beautiful countryside. I mean, it's really an extraordinary location. We've got a lot of areas that you can put things, but we've also got a lot of areas that we can protect as well. So we've got an abundance of all the right things. We've got water. We control our own water, and that's important. Not every town in even Connecticut has that. We do have a community college, which is a tremendous asset. It's growing. They're adding programs. It's a real asset to the community. I mean, Winsted has what people and businesses are looking for. We are, we've got all the right things in place. We just need to go out and start knocking on more doors and getting more people aware of what we have to offer. I am convinced of that.
Agreed.
Well, we're real estate developers, I would say prize, right? Location,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we have that, so we're very fortunate there. And as you said, we're in between Boston and New York. So, I mean, we do have a lot of attractiveness to the town.
Right.
And the recreation is, I think, unsurpassed.
Right.
I think it's very nice.
Well, and one of the things I think we need to do is we actually have a lot of people that are not full-time residents, some significant portion, I don't know if it's 30 or 40% of people that are either part-time residents because they live part of the year in a warmer climate when we have 14 feet of snow, or they spend their leisure time here. They choose to be here for weekends and vacations. We need to draw those people into the community too. They need to feel like this is a place that they want to be, that they want to shop, that they're happy to be here, and that they get more linked into the community. And we have that opportunity. I think if you had cleaned up Main Street and it looked more appealing, and they felt like there was more, people listening to them, and you actually engage them in a conversation, there are a lot of those partners who are actually already here. They just don't know that they can be partners. I think they're here, but they're not engaged at this point. So, you know, we've got a lot of going for us, and you know, I think we got to make the most of it. And you know, if we do focus, you know, what we'll have, I think that's so important is we'll have a town that everybody can be proud of. I mean, I think we all are proud of our town now, but you'll have a town that everybody wants to come to. And I really do think that that's possible here because of all the features that the town has. Not the least which is the people. One thing I don't want to overlook is how welcoming everybody has been. Ken and I have been out together, and I've been out with my husband James, who's running for the Board of Ed, to talk to both individuals and businesses again. And in all cases, again, we don't agree on a lot of things sometimes. My husband's running as a petitioning candidate because, you know, we have difference of opinion sometimes, but we all want to try to make the place better.
Right.
And what I find so encouraging is everybody that I've stopped to talk to has said, you know what, I'll take 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, however much time I have, because, you know, I want to share with you my view of Winchester or Winsted, and I want you to hear me. I mean, and an overwhelming number of people have said, I hope you'll come back again. And I think that's something we have to take to heart, that this isn't just a campaign season, go around knocking on doors to say hi to people now, see you in 18 months.
Right.
I mean, it's that balance between trying to focus and get things done and stay connected, but we need to do that. But I think the other last thing that I emphasize when I talk to people, and I believe you all, I know you all embrace this is why I'm running with you, is that we've got to grow the tax base to create a thriving community to a person. Even people who are still struggling to understand all the ins and outs of the education budget and have a lot of sympathy for, you know, gee, shouldn't we be buying more stuff now or spending more money? But even they say, but gosh, I don't have another dollar to give.
Right.
So I really want us to give the school district more money, but I don't have any more to give. And that's where the transparency becomes so important, because if you can't tell somebody what's going on and be clear about it, they don't have that extra dollar to give. They just don't.
And as representatives, you know, and that's what we all are, you know, we've heard that message loud and clear. And because of the lack of transparency, you know, we were hard pressed to do anything but what we did do. You know, it's very, you know, these are tough economic times, and we talked about this, I think, in every one of our shows. You know, when people don't have the, you know, the available throwaway cash, you know, they just don't. They're counting their dollars.
Which is why we crafted that budget that
Right.
kept taxes
That's right.
where they were. I mean,
But even if they did have it, I mean, why would you want to be wasting funds? I mean, there's so much other things that we need to spend our money on. I mean, you know, we know that we did the right thing, and we're going to see it through. I think we've made, you know, extreme amount of progress, but we still have a ways to go.
But we want to make sure that we're clear, because I know that I still hear like some grumblings, like, you know, we're just anti-education, and that's the farthest thing from the case. You know, we all have children. Well, we have children, the three of us. Marcia's got all of our kids. And they've gone through the school system, you know, whether it's been, you know, parochial school, public school, mixture, it doesn't matter. You know, we've all paid our taxes, and we've done it willingly, you know, to you know, pay for this school. We just want to know where the money is going. And if in the event that once all this is said and done and they say we need, I don't know, $500,000 more and this is what we're doing, I think we'd all be a lot more open to making sure they get that money so they could meet their goals.
And to your point, a number of the business owners said, I would be happy to pay more taxes. I would be, if I felt like the school district was spending the money responsibly.
Right.
And by the way, we have to have a school system that works. So I know it's not per se the Board of Selectmen's job. It's the Board of Ed's job to fix the school district, but what you guys are doing, I heard this over and over again, what you guys are doing is the right thing. Because we've got to get this, we've got to get a handle on what's going on, because it's the only way you're ever going to get support to get it fixed. And good schools draws both people and businesses into a community.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I don't think any of us would be happier when we can say, you know, and feel that pride, and everybody, you know, come to as a community back into the fold and say, this is, you know, we've made it through all of this, and this is where we are, and this is where
Right.
we're going.
And once you get it fixed, you keep it fixed.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah, you can't fall asleep at the wheel.
exactly.
No, you have
And
to
I think this
keep
town
at
has
it.
been through enough so that they'll know, you know, I don't know if any fix is perfect, but I think they're going to know when things are headed in the right direction. And then I think it's incumbent on whoever's in charge to really keep their eye on the ball and make sure that things stay the way they are.
And communication is going to be key.
Right, right.
Key.
Maybe then we can ride off in the sunset?
Maybe.
I don't know. Boy, that would be.
I got to rent a horse for that.
No, but that's to your
sight.
to one of your early right off into this sunset. No, to one of your earlier points. I think the key to making all this stuff happen, whether it's finishing the school system, getting it fixed, attracting people to the town, attracting businesses to the town, it takes
Rebuilding our infrastructure.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes leadership. And actually, I apologize, I didn't mean to leave this off. You're absolutely right. The roads came up regularly with the,
Well, I bet.
with the
Oh, it did?
businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Now, and
Well, even homeowners.
and
I mean, there was
well,
a-
homeowners, it comes up every single time.
Right.
But I was actually,
I know.
I was interested to see the number of businesses that said, you know, the roads are an issue for me because, you know, some of them live in town, and so they've got their own road issues. But they said, you know, some people come in and drive off 44 every once in a while. Someone takes a left turn at Elm Street, and then it's like, oh my God! So they said we need to have that addressed.
Absolutely.
And you know, to a person, and that goes back to the implementation. They want to see a plan that says, in the next 5 years, here's what we're going to do. We're going to repair these roads, and as a result of that, we're going to raise this in taxes, and we're going to have this in matching federal and state grants. But we're going to stick to that plan.
Right.
I mean,
And Jim Rotundo
And that-
actually has come up with something like that.
He has, he has.
He has, and he's been identifying, like, you know, and kind of like what
Timetable.
rating them
Right.
as
Right,
to
he
the
had
worst
them
and the
color
best.
coded, you know,
Yeah.
from the worst to the best, and there's not too many that are too good.
No.
But you know, I think the key point here is, whatever we do, we need to do it the right way the first time. I mean, we could go out. I mean, and this is stuff that I know because I do it every day. We could go out and put an inch of asphalt over every road in town,
Right.
and it would look beautiful.
Right.
And that's all it is aesthetics. Because the first time that we get frost, it's going to look just as bad or worse than it does
Yeah.
right now.
Right.
So the drainage needs to be done, the crowning of the road, the curbing, it has to be done and done right. You know, if we only do a small portion and it takes us 15 years to get the whole town done,
Right.
then so be it.
Right.
You know, but here again, increasing the tax base will take a lot of this hurt away.
Right.
Oh, sure.
And you know, and that's what we need to focus on.
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think we have to have a strategic plan that says, here's how we're going to grow the community, and then here's how we're going to take the revenue that we raise with that and reinvest it in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to have both pieces of that puzzle.
And somehow you have to build a coalition of people that, you know, may not be of your own party, but you know, you truly need to be partners. Like you said, Karen, when you go to bed at night, you're all neighbors, and
Yeah.
you know, fight through the stuff that you have to fight on, but ultimately find some common ground, and if it moves the ball in the right direction, then, you know, take that and run with it as best you can, because
Well, yeah, you can't stay in a paralyzed state because it has to move.
Right.
And government doesn't move fast as it is.
Right.
But you know, we can't be in a coma either.
and the distractions will be plenty.
Right. And
We
we
know
have
that.
to stay on point.
Right.
And hopefully, you know, after getting through, you know, we got into office, we almost had no money, and you know, and it's been a real roller coaster.
Right.
And hopefully, you know, I really believe that there's going to be a positive outcome as a result of this. So it was worth it.
Right.
But we do need to move forward. We do need solid leadership, partnerships, and with all of this, you build pride. I mean, you're going to just, you know, it's just going to grow.
Right.
And I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever else is out there. Roads don't care. Everybody has to go on them. Little kids, old people, you know, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, and they're terrible.
And to Kenny's point, if you know,
You're right.
I had a long conversation with a local engineer in town, Dave Batista, and he said the same thing. He said, you know, in life you got to do things. You can do things on the cheap, or you can do things right. And you know, he explained that, you know, if you do build and do the roads correctly, they'll last. If you maintain them correctly, they'll last. And I think there's a lot of smart people around town that know when you're doing it on the cheap and when you're doing it right. And
I got to tell you, all I can think of is Frank Smith, and we were doing roads, and for a while they were trying to bury the granite curbing, and he went out of his mind. Because I mean, granite curbing will last forever.
Forever, right?
You know, so don't bury it. Let's raise that up and make that our curbing.
And those are things that people see. I mean, when you're out paving a road and doing it right, you know, Kenny and I and Marcia travel 263. They're in the process of, you know, redoing that, and from what I understand, they're doing it right.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and it's like it's unbelievable. It's like, you know, a little piece of heaven, you know, after traveling a road that's been awful for years.
Yeah, I know. I go up and down Halliburton Avenue.
Oh, I know.
Twice a day.
Right, and I can imagine, you know, the people, if we were able to get that done and financed, you know, how impactful that would be. That what, you know, 300 or 400 yard section of road. I mean, it starts people's morning off, and it probably ends their day, and you know, that would be something that would be a positive change.
You know, there's a lot of people that probably don't know the first thing about road building, but believe me, if they redid a road that had a half a dozen catch basins on it, and the first time it rained, the water wasn't reaching the basin.
Right.
Those people that knew absolutely nothing about roads would know that something's wrong there.
That's right.
You know, so you know, if you're going to do it right.
Well, that's what happened on 84 there,
You know,
right?
yeah.
And that led to a huge problem. But
Dug a hole that went nowheres. You know, pipes were, you know, plugged off.
Let's not be, we've got a lot of work in front of us to get this all done, to put all this together and make it happen. And you know, to your point, Glenn, we've got to, you know, our team, I think, works well together, and will work well together. You know, you guys have worked very well with Lisa, you know, in the last year and a half, 2 years, and you know, hopefully we'll have a good team and be able to work well as a team. I think it's important that you be able to disagree and move on.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the other things I hear over and over again is, I keep hearing you argue about the same things and nothing changes. And I need you to make a decision and let it go. If you won, great. If you didn't, too bad. Move on.
Exactly. Otherwise, your career in this is short-lived, because otherwise you drive yourself crazy.
Right.
Listen, a vote is taken. That's it. You move on.
Right.
And if you have time to dwell about that, there's something wrong, because really we should be looking ahead. You know, what's happened to, and I lived through a lot of votes that didn't go my way. But you move on, because that's the way it is.
And
that's democracy.
One thing I've learned is, you know, there's enough issues on the table so that you're not lost for.
Well, I was just going to say that. You know, there's so much thing to talk about.
There's another victory down there.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And you know, things seem to circle back, you know, eventually, and ultimately, I think, you know, the key is to do things right, and you know, you'll probably make some mistakes along the way, but you know, if you play the game the right way, I think you end up where you want to be.
Well, it's a marathon. You want to finish.
It is.
Yeah, it's a marathon.
That's
We want to finish.
well put.
So.
Oh my gosh, that was a lull.
Yeah. We take a deep breath.
I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. We will have more topics as the weeks progress, and we look forward to seeing you. Please answer the door when we knock on your front step. And I thank all the business owners who have talked to us so far, and we look forward, if we haven't seen you, to seeing you soon. And hope you'll join us again next Thursday.
Right.
Can we throw in a little plug for this Saturday?
Certainly.
We have a meet and greet scheduled Saturday, October 1st, at the Atrium Building of the Northwestern Community College on Halliburton Avenue, from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 6. We'd love to, maybe after the fall foliage, you could stop in and share some of your thoughts with us. We'd love to meet you and talk to you for a few minutes and enjoy your company for a few hours.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So on that,
And it's going to be a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful day.
Yes.
So please stop by. Again, it's 4 to 6 at the Atrium, and there is a parking lot right outside.
right.
And it's going to be fall-like, so it's perfect.
And we'll see you next Thursday.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.